Hi, Mara. Good morning. Nice to see
Hello,
you again.
Fredrik.
It's been a
Nice
while.
to see you. Oh, it's nice that I have you here to discuss because I've been thinking. I mean, lately, many of my clients are worried, concerned, curious. I don't know how to call it about this new hybrid mode of working, and I'm interested in kind of discussing it with you, getting
But
your ideas.
That's exactly the topic I had on mind. And to look at the transition from remote to hybrid working, which is a big challenge for many leaders. Blah,
It
blah.
is. It is.
Yeah. Every organization is struggling now to find the right formula, right?
Yeah, the balance. Yeah.
With at the extremes, some banks, notably, have been saying, we want everybody back in the office. It's mandatory, and where some, I think, more IT type of companies, like in the Bay Area, are saying we don't need an office at all anymore. We go completely remote. So
Yeah.
those are the two extremes, and many organizations, even some clients of us, of course, are saying we want to be somewhere in between, but what is the right formula?
I wonder, you can do everything on your own if you wanted to, if you are an IT person, but how do you maintain this team spirit, the interaction that is still required? Because otherwise, you work on your own, you don't see people. Where is the interdependence feeling that should exist in a team? Where is the innovation, the nice discussions, the brainstorming meetings? Yeah, you can have all that online, but sometimes it's also nice to have them face to face.
Yeah, as you say, it's nice, and I think there's several factors. One is the nature of the work. The other, as you said, is the kind of task. Is it about intense collaboration, innovation, and the camaraderie, right? People also like. I mean, we like seeing each other. Maybe once a year, and to meet together. So that there are different factors, but I think the nature of the office is changing. People are
Definitely.
CEOs are asking themselves, what if we want to keep an office, what is it for? And I don't think employees are going to be happy if they have to come to the office and they spend the whole day there behind their own computer or in online meetings.
No,
Say,
no,
what's the point of coming?
exactly. Yeah.
I could have done this from home, right?
Yeah, and that's a management competency. Yeah? It's a manager competency in that they have to be able to assign the tasks in the right way, identify the needs for the task, and also be able to let go of control so that they cannot micromanage anymore. They cannot go and call you every 5 minutes on MS Teams because people cannot work like that.
And that, I think, that's at the heart of these the competencies that you mentioned, the the need for control, but to say it differently, trust. It's all about trust.
It's all about trust.
Yeah.
It's all about trust. It's all about how they perceive their own accountability and how much they trust the loyalty, not necessarily the competence, because they know what the competence of their team is, but it's the loyalty of the team in terms of sense of responsibility towards the work they have to do, not only the quality, but the deadlines they have to meet. And for managers, that requires a huge flexibility because they have to shift management style from one person to the other, which was already the case, but now it's from one modality to the other. And imagine a manager that is having a hybrid team, okay? Some of them work at home and some come to the office and they have shifts and they don't coincide all together in the office, or maybe once every 2 weeks. For him or her, it's really a gymnastic thingy because they need to adapt their management style, their discourse, their control methods to so many different modalities, taking even that matrix into consideration.
Yeah. And I suspect that these banks who have decided it's mandatory back in the office, 40 hours a week, I think there's a distrust of the employee.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
don't. These CEOs or these senior leaders, they don't trust their people to be productive and to be loyal while working from home.
That could be. That could be. There's also the feeling of inadequacy of managers, that they don't feel capable of managing all that diversity. And just to make an example, here in Italy during the first lockdown, when schools needed to be all online, and teachers were not prepared because even the tools they were using did not allow them to have breakout rooms. They had no training. It was, and I know some teachers that were really suffering, and it became even more complicated when they allowed children to go back to school, but they gave the choice. You could come to the class or else do it on distance learning, or synchronous. So the teacher had to deal with two different classes at the same time.
And that was already a hybrid model.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the level of stress that those teachers were reaching was amazing. And I think that this is not exactly the same when you're a manager managing a team, but there are some parallelisms that you can make, some comparisons, because you have to deal with different modalities at the same time, and you require different skills. So how can you do the flexible thing?
Yeah, that's interesting, Maya, and it reminds me of a model that I read about that comes from Linda Gretton from London Business School. She combines the dimensions of time and place, because during the COVID period, remote working, we talked only about place. Do people work from home or do they work in the office? But she said we should also look at the time dimension. So when you work in a team, do you work at the same time, which we call synchronous working, or do you work whenever it suits you? And she calls that asynchronous working. And when you combine time and place, it gives you 4 different quadrants, and we have those on the image here.
I fully agree. But I know, what do managers need to develop as new competencies to achieve that? Because that's the big question. How can we support managers in opening up and take advantage of that flexibility they needed to develop to now focus on developing new competencies? And the first one is what we said: how do you control people? How do you trust them to achieve what they need to achieve? And at the same time, how do you create this spirit of cohesiveness, cohesion within the team, so that everybody feels they can count on each other and they are counted on by each other? So that interdependence feeling that makes the richness of a team. Otherwise, why have one if you cannot count on each other to do better? But another thing that I am convinced we shouldn't overlook is the capacity or the resilience of managers. How has this suffered? Remember in March last year, when all this thing started, managers were parachuted to the role of remote managers without knowing most of the time what to do with it. So they transferred their typical management style to the virtual work, and they had to adapt it because it couldn't work. And I have done team buildings online. I have done many trainings, and I coach managers. And in those interactions, they tell me, well, the most difficult thing is to create those spontaneous interactions that we used to have when I was getting out of my office to fetch a glass of water, and I met somebody, and I said, oh, by the way, how was this project? Now I have to call them because we don't see each other spontaneously. And team members also miss that. So everything is more formal. How can you loosen up people and formality?
And I think you talked about training. I think we've spent a lot of time training leaders in building that sense of a team and those informal connections online. And we're quite optimistic about that it is feasible. But now with hybrid, I think it is more complex, because it's different. If you have everybody online, let's say a team of 10 or 12 people,
it's equality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now you might have, half in the office and half remote. And so that's really a big change, I think.
It is, because you have to make sure as a manager that there is no this feeling of us and thems, that those that are not in the office by choice, they are not losing the, even the, I don't want to say the gossip, but the little comments that are done there, the political ideas within the organization, or even the political issues that are there, the hints about new strategies, they miss that because they are not in the corridor.
Yeah.
So
there's another thing at play, which is called the co-location bias. As you know, there's this unconscious bias, I would say, that we tend to look a little more positive at people who are with us.
We see them.
We see them. We have coffee with them. We smell them. All the subtle cues, the humor, that kind of thing. So if you have certain people more often in the office, you very much, the risk is running that us and them. There may be a gender thing also. Some publisher wrote that maybe men tend to be more frequent in the office than women. So if more power is happening in the office, or more influence, there may be a gender gap created there.
And that's yet another issue. As I told you, Fredrik, this is a most interesting time for me. It's a historic moment for coaches and trainers like us. It is, and we have to help people adapt. And it's a big responsibility also for us. They have to be aware that it's happening, and in many cases they don't, because for them it's the new layout and okay. So make them aware. And how do you think these people are feeling back home? Do they feel part of the team? What are you noticing? And the questions, this is our strengths as coaches. So once they realize, is helping them devise strategies and moments where everybody could share in an informal way. And also kind of discipline people who are in the office so that they can include others. And I heard this anecdote once that they had organized some kind of meeting, informal meeting for everybody, but there was one person who couldn't attend for any reasons. They all went in the same room with their computers and had an online meeting just to include that other person, and that she wouldn't feel again us and them thingy.
Yeah, I think that's a great example.
That's a nice example, but you need a really high level of awareness and of trust and compassion in order to put that together.
Speaking of trust, there's been quite a bit of research done during the COVID period about productivity of home workers, and it shows that productivity hasn't gone down. On the contrary, people seem to work that little extra bit from home. For instance, many people use their commuting time that they normally would have spent in the train or the car. They use it to work extra time.
Yeah.
So I think we need to show this to leaders when we talk about trust. Hey, look, people are generally working harder. They're trying to prove themselves and working from home. So there's a new task for managers, I believe, which is taking care of remote employees, of their physical and mental
health.
Yeah,
because people are feeling, in some cases, overloaded because the information is coming their way all the time. Now it's not the time in the office and the time at home. You mix them up. Of course, you can take 1 hour to go jogging and then come back and continue working, which is much more flexible. But in the meantime, I mean, you work earlier in the morning and later at night. And I am sure you have noticed also the frequency of night emails it has increased, even for us. I mean, from companies we work with, I see people contacting me for appointments or things late at 10, 11 at night. Yeah.
Speaking of which, and maybe to end with, for you as a professional, what does hybrid mean for you, or a hybrid future?
Oh, the hybrid future for me personally.
Yeah, for you, as a professional.
I guess that we, and I speak for me and for you, Fredrik, because I mean, we've always been working hybridly, because we have combined the face-to-face when we go and deliver to the client, and also a lot of homework when we are either working virtually or doing our own preparation, high concentration work. So what is changing is that I travel less. And I don't mind. But yeah, the hybrid is just it's taking away a modality that I think, for me personally, has enabled me to have a better balance, personal and work life.
And any trips in your agenda the next?
Yes, I am going to France this week, and to Spain in 2 weeks.
Okay. So,
but is much more manageable than before. Before starting this conversation, we were talking about the weather and how extreme it is getting. So it raises also our consciousness and awareness about the impact we are having, both as people and as professionals. What is really needed? When is it really needed for me to travel and to have a carbon imprint?
Yeah, I think a lot of large corporates are asking themselves that question.
Yeah.
Do we want to spend our travel? How do we spend our travel budget wisely? Is it really necessary? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the hybrid is there to stay. How? We don't know. And that will be the big enigma.
Thank you very much, Maya, for this conversation.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. And
me too. And we'll be in touch.